This conference will now be recorded.
January 9th, 2024.
Oh, yeah. Oops. Sorry about that.
24.
Meeting called to order. Any changes to the agenda?
I don't have any.
We approve the agenda.
I second.
Motion second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carries. And we've got 6 here tonight, 600. Approval of the December 12th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from December 12th.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, carries. 4A, we have a public hearing, close enough, scheduled for 2080 20th Street. Any background information from staff, or should I get right into the hearing?
I think it's just a variance on the rear yard setback at the house addition. If you remember, this was in a lot that was combined without the city's consent on it. And with the addition, it would go 2 feet to the setback of the lot being separated, if that makes sense.
I'll open the public hearing. Audience? I'll close the public hearing. Any thoughts of the commission? So we got what? 2 variances and then another public hearing that we might set coming up. But if we make some findings on the record, then we can prepare those in a written form for council to consider at the next council meeting. But, so on the 20th Street variance, we have to follow or at least consider some of those bullet points in Kurt's memo. I think is part of the policy here is, even though it's a double lot, because of generally city policy to keep lots available for separate residences, because that was sort of the original plan when it was platted, as well as the whole issue on having to cap the water and sewer, right, Brian?
Yes.
So kind of more in favor of allowing this variance into the setback rather than just converting it into essentially a double lot, right?
In maybe I stated that at another meeting, but I know the back half of that lot isn't suitable for much, and it would make sense to let him get into that area with what he wants to build. But I would say we should leave the lots as separate lots.
Right. One of the primary reasons for a variance is if you've got an odd shaped lot, and this with that diagonal rear lot line probably is a good candidate for that.
The encroachment is just on the corner of the addition, is that how it is?
The addition is straight. You can see the house there. The addition kind of goes straight back. And so It would be into the setback of the rear yard.
It'd just be the corner, it wouldn't be the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So technically, they're asking for a variance to encroach 2 feet into the rear yard setback at one corner. All right, so I guess we can go down the criteria unless there's comments. So number one, are there practical difficulties? I suppose we could say the diagonal shape in the rear lot.
And the slope of the lot too. It's, oh yeah, it's not very usable, the back half of the other lot, right? Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And number two, it's due to circumstances unique to the property. Well, you can always argue it's the plight of the landowner because the landowner is the one who's proposing this, but I would say it's due to circumstances unique to the property again because of the 2 issues stated. Then variance granted will not alter the essential character of the locality. Have to give that an affirmative if we want to make a motion to recommend approval to the council. And then variance is the minimum variance, which would alleviate the practical difficulty and also would not be materially detrimental to the purpose of the ordinance. Approve all of those factors, then I guess we'd recommend approval to council if that's what we're thinking we're wanting to do.
I would make a motion that after going through the findings of fact that we approve the 2-foot setback.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, carries. So that'll go to council at their next meeting. And for B, preliminaries on that, Kurt or Brian?
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Kurt.
What was what I have here? It's a variance for the drive-through in general, just a drive-through. We don't have a spot. You can see one on this drawing that's given for Nielsen's grocery store, but this is just for having a drive-through in a C1A zoned business. So that's what we're applying this public hearing for, is just that. And then Brian's got some other things to add to it.
Yeah, well, I think Kurt kind of summarized that. So we've got, of course, Nielsen's, and they want to have a drive-through for their Caribou. Well, I told you last time that we neglected to do the zoning review ahead of time. And in doing the zoning review, the C1A zoning district does not have any wording for a drive-through window or a drive-through.
Can I interrupt you? But like out where McDonald's is and those others, that there is some
C2.
language in there.
That's a C2
Right.
zoning.
Yep.
You say it doesn't have any word, it doesn't say you can or can't have it, it doesn't mention it at all.
Right. Yep. It is part of a C2. So there was some discussion with one of my staff members that it would make more sense to rezone. And I said, well, no, that doesn't make any sense, because if you rezone out of the C1A where a grocery store fits and put it into a C2 where it doesn't fit, then that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I thought that the variance process would be the way to go. Now, the other thing we don't have in our zoning code is all the development wording on what a drive-through should look like. So we grabbed Cannon Falls wording from their ordinance and applied it and looked at it. And I was going to bring that, and I completely forgot. I got focused on this variance stuff. But basically it's basically a visual thing. And then some stacking for vehicles. They meet the stacking because they're in their parking lot. They're not going to be on the road. The bank downtown is a problem from time to time. The old bank, because cars stack up. On Saturday mornings, it was terrible there for years before they had the other bank. But we won't have that issue here. The visual of that drive-up window, there's no residential property that are going to be looking at it. So if anybody had an issue, they'd probably be here for the public hearing. So basically, now they are having issues with the county in the turning radius out of the drive-through getting onto the county road. Well, that's not us. So what I'm looking for is to consider approving a variance to have a drive-up window somewhere on the building. Now,
No
we
need
may have
for a
to-
parking variance or anything, just
no need
allowing
for a
it.
parking variance at
Yeah.
this point.
Okay.
We're still working through that, given the late zoning review. They do have some things to work through there too, but I wanted to get this one off the board and kind of take care of the Zumbrota things that we can. But I think in a commercial fringe district like this, it makes sense to allow a drive-up window. There's going to be other things coming through that we're probably going to want a drive-up window. And this location, to me, lends itself really well because of where it is. There's no residential right there. They're not going to have a house looking at 300 cars a day driving through a drive-up window. So anyway, I think it's got good argument for approval of a variance for a drive-up window.
Is the county also concerned about cars doing U-turns right there, trying to get in, or heading west on,
No, well, they're going to close that entrance,
oh,
the one entrance. That was part of the deal that we had talked about, actually. We said, we think you want to close that because the stacking wouldn't meet then because you can't cross a stacking line of cars. And so they're going to close that. That's that little red that you almost see on the left side there. So that'll be closed. So no issues there. But the main issue is when you turn out of that drive-through, you have to get perpendicular to the road edge.
sure.
And they're a little bit off there. And then the county engineers are saying that you have to get into the other lane. If you're turning right, you get up there and you turn right to go back towards Main Street. They say you have to get into the other lane if you have a bigger truck. So that's the issue, but they're working with the county on that. They're submitting different plans. So the driveway could run different ways. They might have to run it over into the loading dock area and then out, which is going to be a logistical nightmare for their loading dock, but that's not us either. That's them. That's for them. They're just looking to be allowed to have a drive-up window.
And they'll have appropriate signage trying to direct the traffic where they're supposed to go.
There'll be appropriate signage, and if they can work something out with the county, then great. If they can't, one thing they could do is restrict in height-wise for vehicles, and if you have a truck, you got to park and go in and get your coffee. That's a way that they could use that. It's not ideal, but I dealt with a lot of stuff like this in Rochester over the years, and you work with them the best you can.
Yeah.
You had mentioned parking, is that a concern that we're going to maybe have to deal with?
Possibly. So what they've got is we really don't have a C1A parking calculation. We have the C2, which pretty much
Because
applies.
downtown parking, you get what you get.
Right,
Yeah.
downtown, yeah. So we're in a fringe area too. So, I think we consider surface parking, or not surface, we can consider street parking and all of that. But what it is, it's a calculation of one parking spot for every 200 gross square feet of store area. There is another calculation in there where you can consider, if you're 50% storage, you can consider the storage areas as a higher calculation, I think it's 1 per 500 square feet. So that lowers the number of parking spots you need. When I was in Rochester, we had some issues with, it was more occupant load at that time for restrooms and things like that. And we would, depending on the circumstances, allow, too bad Kim's not here because she would know about this stuff too, but allow things like, so that in a grocery store, you've got fixtures all over the place, right? Well, the area that those fixtures take up are not occupied by anybody. So to say gross square footage, to me, can be interpreted a little different or can be, looked at. So what I told them to do, Mick at Ankeny, the general contractor, I said, give me a plan with a square footage that shows the actual area that can be occupied, and then give me all your storage square footage and give me your fixture square footage. And so that may have to come back here for consideration. Because they were off by, I can't remember how many spots. But,
Just want to make sure the decision on the drive up is not going to make.
oh, the drive up has no, yeah. Drive up doesn't require parking unless they restrict it, then there could be extra parking. Yeah, that's a good point. If they restrict it and the trucks have to park to go in. But though that should be taken care of with the seating area inside anyway, that should already be calculated. So that shouldn't have anything. But yeah, we might be back once that's done.
Let's just, not that it matters, it's too late, but before this whole project got started, it's just a concept plan. Is there any other spot that would have made sense? This might be the only
It is.
logical choice anyway, right?
Yeah, they were thinking on the front of the building at first. When I was talking to the general contractor, he said that, then they'd be crossing their doors and everything else. And yeah, so that didn't make any sense. So this is truly the only spot that would make sense. So they'll continue to work with the county, and I talked to Jess Greenwood quite a bit too. He's the engineer down there. I think it's a good thing for Zumbrota. If we can get something to work, great.
A comprehensive plan encourages development in the downtown district, so I think we gotta try to make it work as best we can.
If you had nothing in the zoning for the C1 that either allows or disallows the drive up, see why a variance would be a big deal.
Right, and then one of my staff members, just in full disclosure too, he is of the opinion that you can't issue a variance for this. But I think he's getting things confused with uses. He went as far as to go to the reviser and everybody else to try and prove that he was right on this one. But I think he's just not interpreting it or not understanding it correctly, because I think this is exactly what a variance is for. What the reviser says is you cannot, use variances are generally not allowed in Minnesota. Any use that is not permitted under the ordinance. That would be if we were gonna, to me, that would be if we were gonna put I don't know, strip bar in there. That would be a different use. That was the only thing I could think of, or some use that's not allowed. This is not a use. This is basically an accessory to a building that's being used that way anyway. A coffee shop is allowed because it's part of a grocery store. It just lends itself to. So when it goes to the council, I don't know if that individual is going to say anything or not. But I wanted to bring it forward because he's got strong feelings on that.
And it would probably meet the requirements that we have for a C2 for a drive up, I guess. If we just kind of reference that as allowing for variance, maybe that would make.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is not changing the use or allowing a use that's not allowed in a zoning district. I would consider a drive-up window a use, I guess. I think what that's getting at is, allowing, I don't know, something that would not be allowed in a downtown district, agricultural or something.
I'll officially open the public hearing, then I'll shut it.
Oh, that's right, I forgot we hadn't opened that yet.
That's okay.
Got all the discussion ahead of time.
So public hearing open, closed, and then now I suppose we should still touch on some of the same factors, even though it's a completely different type of situation. In granting a variance, however, we should probably still touch on those factors.
Yes, absolutely. Because we'll have to write something up for the council for this one too.
So practical difficulties, I guess. Practical difficulties in complying with the official control. Well, here, our ordinance doesn't address it. So this is technically a deviation from the ordinance since it doesn't address it. So there's the practical difficulty,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody has any input or different opinions, say it, but plight of landowner due to the circumstances unique to the property. Well, we, again, comprehensive plan of the downtown district, we want to try to see if this is done. This might be the only logical place for it. So you're stuck with the existing building and you're trying to make it work. I guess that's unique to the property. Could be an argument. And will not alter the essential character of the locality. Well, we're in the C1A district, so having a coffee shop or a coffee house with a drive-through, one would argue, isn't necessarily altering the character of the neighborhood or the locality. Yeah, and it's the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty. Well, all we're doing is approving the existence of a drive-up window, so it's either all or nothing. And then isn't materially detrimental to the purpose of the ordinance. Yeah. So
On the basis of those items, I move we approve this project.
Second it.
motion second to recommend approval to the council. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carries 6-0-0. No old business. 6A, request for variance at 109 Sugarloaf Lane. If,
Yeah, so you can see the fourth to last page. Sorry, I should put page numbers on it. 6A, variance application for 109 Sugarloaf Lane. So there's a shed. So this summer, is that when you had the park?
Yeah, we did a
Survey,
survey of the park to identify property lines, and we identified a number of things that need to be moved off of park property to clear the park boundary.
So you see the picture here. You can see the shed in the upper left-hand corner of the picture. The shed's larger than 128 square feet. Therefore, a variance is needed because the shed sits very close to the lot line. The residence is owned by Mr. Nelson, and he received guidance. I spoke to him on the phone. He received guidance from Mr. King, the city of Zumbrota, who at the time stated he didn't need a permit because for various reasons. He did not know where his lot line is. He does now. The shed is currently touching the lot line, as you can see in the picture. So we're looking for a variance. He's come in and filled out the development application. He's paid for it. The very last page is a hand-drawn picture, but GIS picture there for you.
So what we had is he had a whole bunch of pavers and things that he needed to get off park property back there. And then one of the things was his gutter on his building. A corner of his building was hanging over the property line. And what's that?
Up high.
Up high, yeah, up high. Yeah. His corner of his, and he's been working very well with us on this most recently. So he agreed to take that part of the gutter off, so then he's not over the property line anymore, but he's too close to it. Thus, the variance. We said, hey, you better make this legal. You need to get a variance to be that close to the property line. Now, this location, it's the park, it's woods. He's right on the property line pretty much, but there's nobody else there. There's not going to be another lot. There's not going to be another house or anything. The biggest concern was that he was not over the property line. And now it's legalizing the shed, so it doesn't come up in the future.
Might benefit him down the road, otherwise, there's this encroachment and
Yeah.
future property owner might like to see that variance is given. Yeah.
This is next to a part of the park that is not likely ever be developed.
Right, so if you're on the trail from the pool and heading towards the woods, it's on the right side, just as you go into the woods. It's back there a little bit. You can't see it in the summer. Yeah.
How big is it? Is it big?
How big was the shed?
It's over the 128 square feet.
Like 300 feet over or what?
When I spoke to him, he didn't know the size of the shed, the square.
Didn't know the size of
Right.
it.
It is, yeah.
16 by 20? No, not that. Huh?
Did it have water out there and stuff in the shed? Do you know, Brent?
Nope, not in the shed. The other one is the cool one. The one on the other end of the,
What's he got?
he's got a fireplace in, it's beautiful. It's like a little cabin.
Possible planning commission tour?
Hey, absolutely. He showed us the one day we were there, man, it's nice.
Is it as big as a garage, or how big is it?
No, it's not as big as a garage. I can't even really remember how big it was. I don't have a,
Kind of a structure that could be moved with
no, gosh, no.
I was wondering, I know we just going to set a public hearing, but this subdivision has been there since the 1970s, I think.
No,
And,
80,
Because this is that spur that got developed after.
Oh, okay.
So that's in the 80s.
yeah.
But no, pins would have been set. So why were all these property lines, why was this an issue? Was it because people just didn't care, didn't bother to find the pins, or they thought it's the park, so nobody cares, I'll keep squeezing it?
He stated he and his neighbor, sorry, he and his neighbor looked for but couldn't find the property lines.
It was a little bit different all the way along. You know, the one that's quite a ways over down in the park, that one was, it just kind of evolved over time by where someone had a fence and they went from a corner of a fence and all of a sudden it kept going.
Right.
This one was, they're back in the woods and he removed a whole bunch of timbers and, I mean, he had a whole deal back there.
Huh.
He had a big water tank back in the parkland.
This guy did?
Yeah, yeah, and he took care of all of that,
Even the
took
eave
it all
or the
out,
gutter?
tore it all
Because
Even the gutter out
out, and even went as far as to take the 1 foot of gutter off the roof, so it wasn't hanging over the
question,
property.
when I was in Parkport, we noticed there were a number of properties that had this kind of an issue further forward here in the park.
Yep.
Have those been addressed too?
All but one, the big shed, that one, we did an encroachment agreement that's documented with the property. If it's damaged beyond repair, they have to take it down, and they have to take it down when they sell the property.
I was just wondering if this is going to set a precedent if we were to allow this one and another one.
Well, he's not over the property line.
Yeah.
So this is no precedent here
Variance
because
will be part of it.
they'd be close to the property line, yeah. And, right around the park, being closer, we weren't gonna bother with that anyway. It's kind of like, remember we talked about the golf course, that's just huge and open, it's always gonna be there, those type of things.
Maybe.
Shed's been there for a long time, and there's park on the other side, and that's basically.
Yeah, and
argument.
there's some discrepancy on the guidance he thought he did or did not receive from the city back when he put it up.
When would that be?
February 13th at 5:35 PM. The day before Valentine's Day.
I was gonna say, is that Valentine? I can't remember.
Special day.
I move that we set a public hearing on February 13th at 5:55.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, abstained, carries 6-0-0. 7A. You're gonna have a report, Kurt?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Yeah, so I'll have just a report of for the planning and zoning of numbers of houses that were built and where they were built at. So, yep.
Do you have a summary of how many vacant lots there are in the city too? I guess that would be something I'd be interested in.
Yeah, somebody asked me that the other day too.
There's still some up by the golf course. I can tell you that off the top of my head.
And the woodlands, there's some too.
Yeah, there's.
Are there? Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, behind there, there's a bunch. Well,
Quick and efficient again. Thank you for